Hey, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to the Counterpoise podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Samantha Adams, and I'm joined by my other two co-hosts. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
How you doing, everybody? Back from break. This is Everett Stevenson.
Hey, everybody. This is Malik Foster, your last and final co-host for the Counterpoise podcast. And today we have a good topic for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the 50-50 man versus the traditional man. And we're going to talk about the differences between the 50-50 man and the traditional man. And this topic was brought about based off of a discussion that was posted on a podcast. I think we can link it in the description for you guys if y'all want to check out the full video. We can try to do that for you guys. But basically, that's what we're talking about today. Before you play the clip, E, we just wanted to go ahead and define what a traditional man and 50-50 man is in this modern day era. From my opinion, I'll go first and then I'll pass it off to y'all guys. So the 50-50 man is kind of, it's in the details, right? It's pretty conspicuous, right? So a 50-50 man is somebody who's going to be splitting most of the financial household duties with that partner, with his spouse. And the traditional man is more like 100% of the financial responsibility is on him, while the household duties, that 100% is typically on the women. And that's the way I see it. That's the way I think most people kind of generally define it. But if y'all guys want to add on to it, or maybe I might have missed something, let me know before you play the clip.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. I think you meant to say it this way. The 50-50 man, it's not just the household duties, it's also the bills. Like everything financial gets split down the middle between him and his partner. I think that's what you meant to say, but you just said just the household.
I didn't say it I thought it said like that. Maybe I misspoke, but yeah, I just said basically split all the duties. Yeah, my bad.
All right, with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the clip for you guys. Also want to just add that this is just a portion of the conversation. I think later on we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about some of the things that was discussed in the conversation. And right before we jump in this clip, I just want to say, hey, you guys, please like, follow, subscribe to the page. We greatly appreciate it as we look to get our numbers up. Thank you.
To be men. But you saying we not men. You saying we not men. Man that makes an excuse can't be a man completely. You can be a male. A man comes with responsibilities, and it's hard. To be a man, it's hard, brother. It's not easy. That's why the respect you want from your woman that you don't get, I get from mine. You woman respect me. My woman respect me. She respect my woman respect me. Yeah, all right, brother. Yeah, all right, brother. Has she ever raised her voice? No. Does she cook for you every night? Of course. So she respects you, cooks for you every night. Does she clean the house? Of course. She cleans the house, and you got her working 16 hours a day. That sounds like slavery. I'm saying.
Okay. Sam, you're muted. So,
with that part, can I just go ahead and say something? I find it interesting because the gentleman in the red sweatsuit, I don't know either of these guys' names, but the guy in the red sweatsuit, the Adidas sweatsuit, he makes the assumption that the 50, so we're just going to call the one in the red sweatsuit the traditional man, and the guy in the red t-shirt the 50-50 man. So traditional man tells 50-50 man that his woman doesn't respect him because they're 50-50. The reason that I find that to be a problematic statement, right? I find that to be a problematic statement because all women are different, right? All women have different preferences. Some women want to be in that 50-50 relationship. You see what I'm saying? Some do. Some want to be able to, contribute to the household financially. Some want to be able to, they look at it like it's an equal partnership and they have equal roles and everybody shares the same jobs. There are women out there that want that, they desire that, they're okay with that, right? And so, regardless whether or not you believe in the follow the Bible, for those of us that do, the Bible does say that a woman is supposed to love his wife and the wife is supposed to respect her husband, right? And so if as a woman, if you're entering into a partnership, relationship, and you guys are on one accord, right? And you guys both agree that the 50-50 thing is what y'all are trying to do, then that doesn't make her respect him less because you guys are on the same page. Like she's going to respect him the same. I do agree with him with regards to, all right, she goes to work 8 hours a day, then she comes home and cleans the house, cooks, and takes care of the kids. That's a lot. Like my hope for them, and if she's cool with it, cool. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's different, but because women are natural nurturers. But if my hope for them is that if she's going to work, that he's also sharing the duties of cooking, cleaning, and helping to, take care of the kids and make sure the kids are straight and ready for school and their homework is done and all of that. So, that to me is more so what 50-50 looks like. And I think for the traditional man, he's looking at it like she's going to work and she's doing all of that. Yeah, that's slavery. I mean, I'm not going to call it slavery, but that's definitely a lot. And I think that I do think that if she's doing all of those things and she doesn't want that, that's where those fights and arguments come in, where a woman feels like a man is not being a man because he's not doing the things that he needs to do to help her when she's asking for help, right? Because they both have this shared partnership. And so I just wanted to chime in on that aspect, guys.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did such, because I wanted to jump in and, of course, bring some discord to some of the things that you were just saying. While I do believe that there initially may be, and this is also given consideration into the fact that people change throughout relationships, and I think while structures of the relationship itself may also change. I believe that there may be a time in which, a woman may be more willing to help out financially to the household. And then there may be times where they may want to feel like they aren't necessarily required to help to take care of the household. Even if they might have started off saying that they are willing to, do certain things within the household. While I do agree that that may change the dynamic of the relationship, but I also think that, and this is something that wasn't necessarily discussed in the clip, that the traditional man said, like, again, a woman may not be built to be out here on the workforce. He called it actually a battlefield, in the workforce being like a battlefield. And I think that that's not necessarily to say that women can't compete in there or that women don't belong. It's more so saying that to work a job, to remain employed, to get up every day and grind for say 20, 30, 40 years of your life is not necessarily the pressures that women should have to endure in his mind, and then also in minds of more traditional like men. Those are things that a men should take on because they are have more of a stronger outlook as far as being willing to take on more responsibility, take on the stresses that come on a job as far as working towards promotions, the politics of trying to maneuver within the workplace, and all of the other things that come into it. So I think that that's one thing that goes when he talks about, a woman's build and how, a woman, and he said, like, your woman may not respect you as much if she has to work, right? And I think that was going towards the fact of saying that if you could take some of the pressures off of her load, that she'll be able to be a little bit more thankful for that. And so I think that, and as we all know as well, that while, yes, that probably helps, we do know that that's not going to be enough at all to just satisfy a woman completely. I know, Malik, you brought up how we've seen in this particular times, we've seen some of the richest men in the world, have divorces with women. And those guys weren't necessarily requiring their wives to come in and pay 50-50. So, again, the fact that you're able to provide completely for someone isn't solely going to be enough to make a woman feel like, well, I don't have to do anything, so I'm just going to stay. There are some women who feel like, you know what, regardless, if there's certain things that I'm not receiving, I will be willing to leave the situation.
Yeah, I made that point, because there's no foolproof plan, so to speak, for lack of better words, in terms of how to make, relationships work, right? Whether, is the traditional man right, or is the 50-50 man right? Because I think we need to kind of look at everything with context, right? In the situation of the modern day era with social media, with the advancement of women's rights and the things that women want to do. I do agree with the man with the sweatsuit in terms of, like, yeah, no woman wants to work. Most women, I would say a good portion of women, don't want to work 16 hours, but they do want to work. They do want to have careers. They do want to contribute. But I will say they don't necessarily want to do 50-50, but maybe like between the, I would say maybe like the 60 to 80% range. They don't want to feel like, you know, uh, like the man is a tyrant. So they want to have their own stuff too, right? A lot of women, like when I've talked to them, they still want to have their own stuff, in case maybe the man falters. That's if you get a good woman. Some women, all right, they're just, straight up gold diggers. They're trying to use these men, but some women actually do want to have careers. They do want to contribute to society in some type of way, and they do want to help. And the thing about the traditional man, where I think the 50-50 man has a point, like, you can still have these things, I feel like, as long as you're still working hard and doing your job, right? You're doing the best you can, but maybe you just can't, you still need help. Like maybe your job's not enough, maybe your business isn't going well, or whatever. You're from the financial aspect, you still have to split the finances or split the household duties or split whatever, right? That's where the woman will come into play to still assist you and support you, be that support system. So yeah, I do disagree with you about, like, women not wanting to, contribute like financially, or like having those type of jobs and doing those sort of things. I think they do want to do that, but I also agree, like, they don't necessarily want to do that hard, strenuous work that, not only men are designed to do, but like society also puts that more pressure on men. Like, you have to do this. Your job is provide, protect. Women aren't even, it's not really advertised and marketed to them. Different things are marketed to them, like the marriage, white picket fence, the happiness, et cetera, different stuff, right? So not only is it like a different genetic makeup between the man and female from that standpoint, but also the way, society markets to men and women, generally speaking, in a typical male female relationship, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I wanted
Uh,
to just jump
Wait,
in and
hold on. Wait a minute. No,
he
no,
got to
I
say something
gotta,
about my statement.
I
Hold on, he
got,
said
I
something about
gotta
what I
address
said.
what
I
you
just need
said.
to, ma'am. He said something about what I said. I need to
Yeah,
clarify.
I got plenty to say about what you said.
And that's fine, but let me make sure that we just get my thoughts correctly established so that y'all can both argue how y'all feel about it.
well, go
I
ahead,
was
quick,
just simply
and then
saying
let
was,
Sam
I
have
didn't
it.
say that a woman did not want to work. What I said was she would rather not have to work towards the household type of things. That's what I mean by that. Like, I'm not saying that she doesn't want to work, although I do believe a lot of women would rather
Yeah,
not
that's what
have
I
to
was
work.
saying. Yeah, I was saying that,
But I just
there
don't feel
are
like
women
right,
that
right.
do
And
do that.
I agree with you. That's what I was just trying to say. Like, I think that she just doesn't want to feel like the things that she's having to work for has to contribute to the household. She could work towards the things that she may want to work towards. That's what I'm going with.
All right. As the woman on the panel, let me do that. We're not going to talk about I think that this is what she might want when y'all are both men. Okay. I'm going to tell you that, like I said from the beginning, women are different. You have different types of women, just like you have different types of men. And you have some women that want to get up in the morning, go to work, and contribute financially to her household. Then you have some women that would prefer to be in a traditional relationship, right? And want to take care of home while her husband goes out to work and makes money. But one of the things that you said that stood out the most to me, that I have a lot of pushback on, is that women won't necessarily want to go out and have to deal with the politics of work. like promotions and things like that. And that is 1000% false. And the reason why I say that is because, number one, when you look at women, especially Black women here in America, right? We are the most educated people in the country. So you can't say that if you have the most educated people in the world, forget the country, we're the most educated people in the world. And so when you have a group of the most educated people in the world going out into the workforce, we want to be able to grow, to succeed, to earn. Now, if your preference is to be a stay-at-home wife, mom, whatever, that's cool. Like nobody's knocking it, because like I said before, everybody is different and everybody wants different things. And one is not more important or better or worse than the other, right? It's just about what your choice is. But at the end of the day, if your choice is to go out into the workforce, most people do not go into the workforce with a goal in mind of just being where they're at, unless that's who they are in their character. That's a personality trait. That's unbiased to gender, right? So if you're talking about a female who's in the workforce, she absolutely wants to do the things she has to do in order to succeed. Because why? That's going to bring more money. Now, as far as contributing to her household is concerned, right? If a woman is able to go ahead and earn more to help, contribute to her household more, of course, that's what she wants to do. If she's in a relationship with a man that is offering the provision, that is providing the finances so that she doesn't have to, that's even better, right? But it doesn't mean that she has no desire to contribute because, like I said before, the woman that gets into the relationship with the 50-50 man, knowing full well that their relationship is going to be that 50-50 the whole way through or majority of the way through, then guess what? She's going to be cool with her contribution to the household, her financial contribution to the household, right? But if she's going out into the workforce because she desires to work, and he's like, I got all the finances in the house. You take that money. We can use that money to go on trips. We can use your money to go shopping. We can use your money to do all the extra stuff, right? She might be cool with that too. It just depends on how you all work those things out in that relationship. But to sit there and say that, oh no, I don't think she wants, every woman is different. You have to understand something. Oftentimes us women, we look at each other like, what's wrong with you, sis? What you doing? What you got going on? You see what I'm saying? Because we all think so differently. Another thing I wanted to mention was as it relates to household duties, right? A lot of times women get tired and they get burnt out, especially if they work. And that's the reason why they request help and assistance from their mate, right? With things that's going on in the house. Because household stuff is a lot. Like cooking, cleaning, and taking care of kids is not for the weak at heart. That's a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? And so, at the end of the day, if a woman is working and she's doing those things, at some point she's going to need help because she will burn out, right? And the last thing you want is for your woman to be burnt out. Now, as it relates to what the traditional man had to say with regards to the respect aspect, like I said before, I just want to make sure I reinforce that. You often don't, when you see a working woman, whether she earns more or not, more often than not, when she earns more than her man, right, than her husband, you see her throwing that in his face, emasculating him. You often see that when he's not doing his part. You often see that when he sold her a dream and he's not delivering on the dream that he sold her, right? And then things start coming out her mouth. She starts saying, harsh things to him. But that in part is because he is not delivering. He's not providing what he said he was going to provide. He's overpromising and under delivering. And so now is it a possibility you can have that when he's delivering or even going above and beyond? Absolutely, because some women are absolutely cruel. But that doesn't mean, but oftentimes you see it when he is not delivering what he promised.
And so, thank you, Sam. I just wanted to clarify something as well. I wasn't saying that women didn't have the desire to look to get promoted. What I was saying is like when you work towards a job and you feel like you give your best to that job every day and you feel like you should be getting promoted, but you don't, but you get passed up on that, that is a hurtful feeling. That is a feeling that is ultimately one that could also make someone be resentful to the job, be resentful to the workplace. And there's far too often that a lot of women may feel like on the job that, because again, the workplace has normally been a more male dominated and particularly a more white male dominated environment, they don't necessarily always see the fruits of their labels as far as receiving the type of promotions that they may feel like they're deserving of. And that's the type of stuff that I'm saying. Like when I say you don't want your woman feeling like, hey, I'm giving my all on this job, I'm not getting the type of recognition that I'm supposed to get, and that affecting her and that bringing her down. I agree. Like just as much as what you said, where people could get burnt out from doing household work, I think people can get burnt out from doing regular work as well. And I think that, when we look at the two, at least when you're doing household work, it's within the compass of yourself. Like you can kind of manage that. When you're doing the work for a company or something like that, you don't control all of that, the variable factors. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell your kids or your boss or something like that to only do X, Y, and Z. They're going to do what they choose to do. Whereas with your children, you can tell them, hey, don't take your shoes off at the door. Take them off, you know what I'm saying, in the garage or whatever the case may be, to maybe help, you know what I'm saying, alleviate some of the work that you might have to do in the household. So I think you'll have a little bit more control over the things that you do in the household as opposed to what you will have control over the work environment. And those type of factors also factor into the mindset of your woman, because again, if she's feeling like she's going out here working hard, doing everything and not getting the recognition that they deserve, that could affect their mental space, which ultimately can affect the way that they come home and what they offer to the peace. I think he also talked about experiencing a woman in peace, and the traditional man felt as though the best way to get your woman to be in peace is for you to allow her to not have to worry about having the rigors and the stresses of having to provide in some levels. I think there's another thing where the guy asked, well, what if I don't do 50-50? What if we do 80-20? And the man said, well, are you not able to cover that last 20%? You know what I'm saying? Can you not do that? And I think, we seen a conversation, and I wanted to bring that towards there too. We seen a part of a conversation where the guy discussed on, well, things are hard. And this was the young man.
Said, there's more to the clip. Are you going to play it?
There was no more to the clip. That was all that I had on that clip that we just played, but I'll play it again once I finish the statement. He was like, hey, we have to, again, be harder than our circumstances. So when a guy was like, hey, things are tough, things are hard, you know what I'm saying? When he said things are tough, things are hard, he's again said there's times in which we have to be harder than our circumstances. You know what I'm saying? That we have to overcome our circumstances. So if that means that, hey, you have one job, maybe working at, whatever, working someplace, and then after that job, you may have to go and give a certain amount of hours to another job, then that's what you'll have to do. Then that's what you may need to do in order for things to happen. And I'm sorry, the version that I had on the clip, guys, that's the one that I played. So I'm trying to understand exactly which version y'all are referring to.
Okay. So there is a lot more to this clip, guys. The clip is about 12 minutes long. We're not going to play the whole clip, but what we are going to do, there's another version of it other than what Everett had played and showed. And just bear with us one moment. You can go ahead and finish what
while we're finding that, I'm gonna go ahead a little bit and talk about some of the things that we saw from the 12-minute video. Again, there's one thing where the traditional man stated how, again, men do what they want and boys do what they can. There's a point in the conversation where the guy says, well, I can't just cover all the bills off of what I'm making. And there's a point where the guy says again, are you not a man? And he made a good statement in making that statement, because the guy's like, yeah, I am a man. I'm just doing what I can with what I have available to me. And I think what the more traditional guy was stating, I think his name is Yada Awakening. What Mr. Yada was stating was, you have to over endure your circumstances. That means that however hard it is, and I understand that this is like a kind of pull yourself up by your bootstrap type of mindset, but whatever you're facing, you have to be willing to go harder than the circumstances of which you're facing, so that you can at some point be able to go beyond what what you're getting. So meaning, if you have a job and that job is only paying you $10-15 an hour, then that means you get a second job maybe, and if that second job is maybe only paying you $12 an hour, you work that second job too to try to save up. And even though, and this is a great point that was made, the guy said, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to work myself to death? Am I supposed to work and not have time for my family? Which was an excellent point. I think that, again, people should have time to spend with their family. You know what I mean? People should have time to spend with their family as well. Go ahead, Sam.
Because you said a lot. First and foremost, the thing about not being able to afford to live, right? On the check that they get. Now, one of the things is that the traditional man said, don't enter a relationship if you can't afford to take care of everything by yourself, right? And so the thing about that, I think that is definitely one of those things that's going to have to be like to each his own. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, I understand where he's coming from, right? Because you're responsible. If you are going to be a traditional man and you're going to be the one that's financially responsible for other people, you have to make sure that you can maintain that. And you don't want to put your woman in a situation where she has to participate in that if that's not what you all agreed to, right? And so I think that right there is one part of it. But I do think that it's important to recognize that the traditional man continued to call the 50-50 man not a man because he doesn't pay 100% of the bills. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think just like all women are different, all men are different, and you're going to have people that subscribe to different things. Furthermore, with regards to, the clip, I looked at the rest of the clip. The rest of the clip is probably not worth playing because there's not much more to it. But one of the things that they talked about, I wanted to address was the 80-20 or 70-30 or whatever. If that's what y'all choose, that's what y'all choose. But the thing that the way I see it is that if it's a man's goal to be the provider, right, and the leader and all that, then he should be able to do that. And if she chooses to work, then she should be able to do that. And that if something goes wrong, right, the ball is not going to get dropped. I think that right there is really what the goal is for the ball to not get dropped. So if he's able to pay all the bills and God forbid something happens to her, you don't want her to be in a situation now she's a single mother with 2 kids and she don't know how to pay for anything. She doesn't have any skills to be able to, pick up the slack. So that becomes a whole struggle, right? You also don't want him in a position where, God forbid something happens to her, he can't afford to take care of everything. You know what I'm saying? It just makes logical sense that you want to be able to take care of each person. Should either he sets her up in a way where she's able to take care of everything in the event of his demise, and if she passes, he's still able to handle it all. You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you don't want the structure of that family to completely fail because something happened. Because I think that's the other thing. Like a lot of times we talk about how people should function in these relationships, but nobody ever talks about what should you do if something happens. Because, I hate to say it like this, but death don't miss nobody. You see what I'm saying? Death misses nobody. It's something that everybody is going to experience. Just like if you here, then one day you're not going to be here. And the issue is why put yourself in a position to not be able to take care of your family. That right there is always got to be the priority, is to be able to take care of your family.
Yeah. I just want to jump in to what you're saying with that. I think when that comes into play, I think family planning is important. And either whether you're on the traditional side or the 50-50 side, I think it's up to both people to just have a discussion about the plan. Yeah, even in the traditional side, the man might be, in charge of and have more say so and more authority and how that plan comes about. But a woman's also going to say something like, okay, what happens if something happens to you? You're all ever alone. And the man's going to give a response like, here, just in case, have a plan. If it's 50-50, if something happens to one of us, you'll come up with a plan. So I think that's usually how it works. If we're talking about, the death situation or something happens to somebody incapacitated or whatever, where you can't rely on that person because they either died or they're incapacitated. But I did want to bring up a very good point that this guy made. Well, not a good point, but a very interesting point, I should say. Sorry. He said it's like slavery to have her working 16 hours or however many hours. The guy with the red sweatsuits, traditional man, as we're calling him, um, have her working, have her cooking, have her doing all those household tasks, and also contributing financially 50%. I do agree with him saying like that is wrong. I wouldn't say it's slavery, but I think that's wrong. If he's not also contributing 50% of the household stuff, the finances and all of that stuff, that is kind of cool because generally speaking, most women don't want to pay most of the significant bills if they had their way. So he can't also have her paying significant bills and doing the household stuff. That's just too much. That's not fair to the woman, in my opinion. But if she's fine with it, I'm good with it. Like, just like, hey, when it comes to relationships, if she's fine with him having a mistress, I'm good with it. So I'm all about if people are in agreement, I'm good with it. It's just people tend to do things that aren't in agreement, which messes up the relationships. Like they tend to be cheating on their spouses and not being in agreement, right? They tend to do things in a financial way that they didn't agree upon. So I think that's the issue where we come in today with modern men and modern women. Like we don't have that sort of agreement or code amongst each other, probably due to a lot of things like social media and the current state of society, to where it's not just the neighborhood, the city you live in, or the state. Like the whole world is your oyster. You can travel, you can see people, talk to people online. So many different ways to communicate with a whole bunch of people that can alter the ideas in your mind about what's going on, which makes you shift. Like, what is it? Tyrese Gibson's wife. She's even regretting filing for that divorce because some of her friends got into her mind, or her so-called friends, or other people, specifically women, got into her head a little bit, and now she's regretting it. And that's what she said, not my words, hers. What did you say, Sam?
I was just,
That's his ex-wife, his ex.
Oh yeah, his ex-wife. Yeah, that's what she said. So that slavery point, it kind of comes hard because I kind of agree with him a little bit. I wouldn't say slavery, but it is wrong for him to have her doing all of that, and she's still contributing significant bills, and all he does is pay bills, from what I'm understanding. I guess he said he will help, but he didn't say he is doing all of that stuff, or at least sharing it. So he could have clarified that a little better. But from the way it made it seem to me, that he helps out with bills. If she needs help, he'll do it, but he's not currently doing like a lot of the household stuff. So his wife is exhausted.
yeah, they didn't really go too much in detail about that, but I do think that, you know what I'm saying? It kind of seemed as though, like you said, that she was having to, do a lot. And And like he said, you know, a woman that loves you will be willing to do that. But in the same token, you don't want to abuse that love by not, you know, helping her and relieving her because you see that she's willing to, as Sam mentioned, compensate for the deficiencies of the household, if you will. So she feels as though, you know, hey, he's not able to maybe provide assistance for me in this area or for us in this household in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick up the slack here because again, a good woman would do those things so that the household can function as best as it can. I just wanted to touch on a couple little things real quick as we were wrapping it up. In particular, one of the things that you guys were talking about when you discussed, like, well, should the woman, you know, be willing to work towards, you know, providing certain things toward the house and how that helps. And I think that like one of the things that he was saying was like, you know, one of the things that he said, like where when you guys mentioned like, well, what happens if someone leaves? I think if a man is a more traditional man, I think he has to take into account that he may not be there forever. So he has to almost account for him having to make situations or him having to put things in place so that if there is a situation in which he's no longer able to provide for his family in the manner in which he currently is, that they'll be able to be set up. I think that that should be part of his understanding of his responsibilities. When we come to a more more modern 50-50 approach, I think that that's where a lot of times we may see there is a lack. Whereas I think more of a traditional guy, he may have certain assets in place, certain things that may be in place, businesses is in place that may be able to function to help bring income in for that family. And if he isn't in the event able to run it, maybe they can sell off those assets and live off of the income from those proceeds. Otherwise, they might have life insurance. I think when we come to a more, you know, modern day 50-50 approach, those things aren't necessarily always in place sometimes, which makes that conversation a little bit more difficult if someone happen to be left with both of you guys are doing the best that you could, and unfortunately it ended up having an untimely demise of one of the partners, and now the other partner is left with feeling the pressure of having to figure out how they can make that happen. You know, generally when we see is, you know, they may rely on other family members to help out, right? You know what I'm saying? So typically you might see, you know, grandma or grandpa or somebody like that come around and help out a little bit more. There may be a brother or a sister who may be able to help out, an uncle, if you will, for the kids, who may be able to help assist sometimes to make sure that things can kind of stay afloat as need be. But that type of long-term planning may not necessarily always be there because, again, you guys are pretty much fighting it day to day. But I also wanted to make some points that were made that weren't shown on a clip that I feel like are valid points that were made by the more 50-50 man. When she talked about, like, you know, am I supposed to just work 100% and not have anything for myself? And that's critical. We talk about mental health on this show a lot. And I think that that's something that needs to be addressed because, you know, again, and it's funny because the man stated it and he was like, listen, you know, the traditional man kind of countered by saying, you, for a certain point in time, you have to give up certain things. You may have to give up your peace. You may have to give up, you know, your time with your family for about 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. And I understand those may be formative years if you have younger kids. But if you may want to set them up for in life so that they won't necessarily be having to hustle and bustle like you are, then you might have to make that sacrifice for your family in order for them to be able to be set up. And I think that was a message that he wasn't really hearing. It was almost like, well, I want to be able to be a family man and, you know what I'm saying, have the time to be with my family in addition to not having to make the sacrifices of giving up my time in order for my family to succeed. And that's something where it's like, you know, you can't have it all. Unfortunately, like we're placed in those type of situations where if you're trying to get it for yourself, you don't get that luxury of being able to say like, oh, well, I can rely on daddy's money or I can rely on granddad's money or something like that that's going to come through. You have to have the pressures of trying to figure out, am I going to be the one to make the sacrifice for my family moving forward, or will this continue to be the case? And I think that, that conversation of, well, I need to have time to enjoy my time with my family. If you struggling, good brother, if you in the trenches, good brother, you might need to find a way to figure out how you can continue to like that sacrifice for them. And so that, this is only a short-term sacrifice, whether it be, again, 2, 3, 4, 5 year plan that says, listen, for now, and he mentioned this, hey, for the next couple of years, I might not have the time. I might be gone. Malik, you spoke to this. It's on the mother's job to then let the kids know, hey, dad cares, dad is around. He just isn't able to be here right now because he's making the sacrifices that he needs to make in order for us to have food on the table, in order for us to be able to allow you to go play baseball, in order for us to sign you up for gymnastics or, ballet or something like that. He's making those sacrifices so that you can have
that's where the woman's impact comes into play, right? While the man's doing all that thing you're talking about, that's where the woman impact explains and teaches and nurtures the children and shows them, when your daddy's doing this, he's tired, he's doing this for us. You see how we're able to eat, see how we're able to do this. This is where she promotes the father and holds him up in a sort of like a pedestal, not idolizing him like a god or anything, but holds him up in high esteem. So when the children grow up, they're like, hey, mom was doing this, dad was out here doing this. He couldn't come to all my games. He came to one game, but just that one game was special to me. And now that I'm older, he's still around. I'm able to do this for my dad, this for my mom, blah, blah, blah. And you see a lot of that, for example, with athletes or maybe entertainers, stuff like that. People that we all can see in the public eye that are wealthy. But even if you're not in the public eye, just like, hey, businessmen or whatever, if you're successful in your career, you see that in the Black community a lot when, a two-parent household or if their father was in their lives and their mother really taught them like, hey, your dad's not a bad person. But he just was working. He was trying to do what's best he could with the family. Sorry, I just wanted to explain.
No, absolutely. And I'm just wrapping that up by just saying, like, again, the man was like, well, what do I get? Like, what would I get if I give 100% of myself? Like, what am I supposed to do? Just work until I die? And the mindset is again, you're not working forever to like, you know what I'm saying? The struggle isn't going to last forever per se. If you are really, truly focused and determined on getting to where you're trying to go, you're not going to be struggling forever. You're going to work your plan until that plan comes. And then as long as you're staying dedicated to that plan, it will happen. It's a law of the universe. It's a law of, faith without works. It's a law of everything else, however you label it, that is law. So it's almost like, all you got to do is just work the plan and stick to the plan. Don't give up on the plan when it gets tough. Don't give up on the plan when you get tired. And then eventually you will see that you will get the fruits of your labor from that plan. So I think when he says like, I don't want to give 100% to my family because what do I get if I'm only working just for my family? The thing is again, what you'll get is you'll get a better family because now your family will be in a better position and they won't necessarily have to miss mommy and daddy being gone all day long. Maybe they might just have one parent being gone, or maybe it can get to a point where neither parent is gone all day long and they can have the good fortune of having both of their parents in the household, you know what I'm saying, for majority of the time. So, but I do think that it was just good that he mentioned, like, having self-care. The traditional guy said, like, listen, well, your self-care comes from when your woman is able to pour into you and refill you when you come home. Your self-care could come from you seeing that your family is able to thrive because of the sacrifices that you're making. But the man kind of made it seem like, well, no, like, I might want my time to play on a video game or something like that. Or I might want my time to go hoop at the rec with my friends or something like that. And it's like, man, you might have to cut some of those things in order to get to where you want to go.
So, one of the things I wanted to say was, one thing I absolutely agreed with regards to the traditional man is he told him he had to go harder, right? Like, you could be going hard, but if your circumstance is not if you're not where you're supposed to be and you are trying to provide for your family, go harder. And like you said, E, yeah, that might be a temporary thing. It may not last forever, but go harder. You see what I'm saying? Because it doesn't make sense that if your woman is working 8 hours a day, I think he meant 8 hours when he said 16. He said he was talking about the both of them collectively working 16 hours. And then she's coming home and having to do all of the things, right? She still has to be a mom. She still has to be a caregiver. She still has to take care of the home. She
Okay,
still
I
has to
I
take
think
care
I
of her.
misheard him then. I thought he said she working 16 hours.
He did. But then when
And
you
that's how
watch
I
the long
understood it
clip,
too,
hold
because
on, when you watch the long version of it, he later on says she's working 8 hours, you're working 8 hours. So I
Oh,
think
I
that's
think Sam, what he was saying with that too is she's working all of those hours, and then she comes home and
right.
has to go back to work.
That's
So that's
exactly
why
what I'm
she's
saying.
working more, because it's
Right.
like
No,
when she comes home, she has to do more.
that's exactly what I'm saying, right? So she's working the same number of hours as you, right? And then you come home and you get to woosah and decompress from your day and play with the kids, but she now got to come home and clean. She now got to come home and cook. She got to make sure the kids get ready for school tomorrow, make sure their homework is done. She still has to do all of those things. And then when all that's done, she still has to be a wife, right? And so that doesn't give her room to breathe. Now, women are nurturers, right? We are helpmates. We are going to fill in the gap, right? But at the same time, it doesn't mean that comes without getting exhausted. And so even if you choose a traditional role, that role of being a housewife and a house and a mother and all of that gets exhausting. You see what I'm saying? And so and so, in short, I just wanted to say, like, that you're absolutely right, Malik. That's when the woman's role kicks in as not just a nurturer, but also as the other half of that household, right? As the other leader. Now she has a different role, but she has her own leadership role. It's not to guide the home, but her as a nurturer, the mother, the caretaker, that she has to pour into those children a particular type of way. It's not to say that the father doesn't, but she pours into those children a specific and special type of way, right? And it's important for the children, to know what's going on. If it's a 50-50 home, it's important for the children to know what's going on. Now, I'm not going to say one way is the right way, but over the other. I don't think that one makes you less of a man, but if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that is a problem. You see what I'm saying? You as a man have to be doing what you're supposed to do, depending on whichever role you choose. You know what I'm saying? And you have to understand that as you do that, you have to understand that it's going to require for your woman to be able to pour into you. And it's harder for a woman to pour into you when you are not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, especially when you guys go into it with an agreement. Like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to take care of you. This is how we're going to take care of each other. And if she goes in thinking, okay, this is about to be a traditional role, but I'm just going to work for a short period of time, because he even talked about that. It's one thing, the traditional man talked about that. It's one thing if y'all are doing this 50-50 thing and it's temporary, but the goal is for you to be a traditional man and you're going ahead and you're covering the household and everything else. That's one thing. It's something totally different when you're not doing the things that you're supposed to do in order to, get to that point. And like you said, you have to make sacrifices. Mental health is absolutely important. Absolutely important. Your woman should be able to pour into you just like you should be able to provide her a space where she's mentally and emotionally safe, right? And she has a space to do the things that she has to do. I also think that, as it relates to taking care of one another, if he needs a break, that's what communication is key, because sometimes he needs a break, right? We can't sit here and pretend like men don't need breaks, because men will work themselves to death. And I think that's what the 50-50 man was pretty much saying. So you want me to work myself to death, not spend no time with my family? And it's like, I'm not saying work yourself into an early grave, sir. I'm just saying you got to make some sacrifices. That's just like living above your means. If you don't make enough money for a certain type of car, then don't get the car, right? You got to live within your means, because as long as you live above your means, you are forever going to be struggling. So you got to make the adjustments, even if they're temporary, and just understand that when you and your woman move forward in y'all's relationship, that y'all are on one accord as it relates to the role and the finances and how those things are supposed to be ironed out. I'm not going to say a 50-50 man is less of a man, and I'm not going to say a traditional man is more of a man. I'm going to say they're both men. But you have to remember that your woman is a part of that lifestyle. And how you're able to get to where you're going is dependent on a number of things as it relates to that woman. It depends on what her role is, what she subscribes to, because she's following you, right? Whether or not she is all in when it comes to what it is y'all are trying to do. And of course, goals change, people grow, and all of that. That's why that conversation has to be a continuous and ongoing conversation, because if those things change, you guys have to be able to make the necessary adjustments in order to thrive in your family and in your relationship. It's also important to know who you have and whether or not she's able to pour into you the way that you need. You need somebody that's going to add value to your life. You do not need somebody that's just going to deplete you when if you're working really, really hard and somebody just keeps pulling the rug out from under you, and it's your spouse. Every time you take 2 steps forward, she causes you to take 5 steps back. That's a problem. So you definitely have to try to figure that out and make sure that you know who you have as your helpmate, because she is also the one that's going to be nurturing the children. Now, the thing I find most important about this entire clip is, regardless if one person is right or wrong, even though I don't necessarily agree that either is right or wrong, I do believe that the conversation is necessary. And the reason why that conversation is necessary, especially amongst men, is because, in our society, especially with Black people, the destruction of the Black family and how they've ripped Black families apart, and Black fathers have been absent in so many households, whether it be because they were taken off to jail, they died early, or they just were not there. That conversation is necessary because you have 2 men able to have a conversation man to man about what being a man looks like, right? One of the things that I found most intriguing about the traditional man's perspective is the fact that he said, I've been where you are before. So it wasn't like he was just talking at him from a high and mighty place, even though the 50-50 man received it that way. He was trying to bring that man up. So he wasn't trying to be a crab in a barrel, step on him and be like, figure it out. It's, look, brother, this is what's going on. I was once you. This is how I changed it. Right. And so regardless if he chooses to make those changes in life, at least now that conversation has been had and he has the ability to make the choice. You see what I'm saying? He's not being robbed of not knowing what his options are, not knowing that he has other options. And so I just think that conversation is incredibly important. And I think more men should have it.
Another thing I'll add into that conversation too, though, is the only other little thing that I would ask, and I'm done, which is, you got to make that sacrifice sooner than later. The later you make that sacrifice, it's almost like they talk about when they talk about health and things of that nature. If you wait until you're later in life to try to get into a healthier stance, it's going to be a lot harder versus if you were to do it, in your earlier years, that would then allow you to be able to, it's going to be hard regardless, but it'll allow you to have a little bit of a better foundation that you're working with, and you're not working all the way uphill. So I think that's the one thing that we have to understand as men, and this is my message to the men, is again, brothers, try to make sure that you're figuring out how to set yourself up earlier than later, because if you wait until you got kids, you wait until you have a wife, and now you're trying to figure out how to manage things and get yourself going, she might not have the time and the patience for that. You know what I'm saying? Those kids are growing constantly. They're going to need things constantly. So, it's better to make those sacrifices before you get those things into your life. You know what I'm saying? Have those responsibilities rather, because then, and as we know, again, the dollar gets less and less every year, the strength of it. So it's almost like you want to make that sacrifice early on so you can get to $1 early on, so you can save a little bit earlier on and invest earlier on, so that you will have a little bit better moving forward.
Yeah, sacrifice is a good thing. I think both modern men and women don't want to sacrifice in relationships, period, right? The men don't want to sacrifice to improve themselves. Women don't want to sacrifice to support or do what they need to do to improve themselves in their respective roles in their respective relationships. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that I think both people in 50-50 or traditional roles need to work on, especially the 50-50 roles, if you're in that type of situation. But with that being said, that was my last comments on the topic. I want to get into the book of the month, which is Black History Reader, 101 questions you never thought to ask, by Dr. Claude Anderson. It's a really good historical book. It makes you think about different history questions that happened throughout Black history. So make sure y'all copy that at powernomics.com. You can get that, or Amazon as well. And the Black Business of the Month is Stand With Us Clothing. It's a Black clothing store. They sell hoodies, other T-shirts, all different kind of clothes, jackets. They sell pants. I don't think they sell pants yet, but they have T-shirts and shirts and jackets. So that's what they sell as of right now. Once again, Stand With Us Clothing. And now the quote. Let me pull that up for you guys. Have that. 1 second. Well, this quote, I really wanted to put this one out because I think it speaks to the topic for today. It says the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And I think, and that's by Edmund Burke. And that's important because, I think that's what one of the things the traditional man was trying to say to the 50-50 man, like, hey, you got to do more. You can't just be complacent, do nothing about your situation to improve it if you want to be at the level I'm at. Because I think most men want to be at that level or strive to be. And I think in this case, it's about the journey, not about the result. Like you have to have that effort to endure the journey. You may fail, you may succeed, but you will find some sort of level of success or happiness or whatever. You will find yourself throughout that journey. And I think it's important to put forth that effort. And I think that, and I'm speaking to the men here when it comes to that, because that's what the men are talking about, the men's situation on this side of things. But I think it's very important to enjoy the journey, even though it might be an arduous, very difficult task, but still you got to put forth the effort to see the results. And that's an area of activity of your life. So I just wanted to leave us off with that. And that's all I have for you guys for today on this episode of Cowboys Podcast.
Yeah, well, appreciate everybody for checking out this episode. You made it down this far. Be sure to check us out every Wednesday at 8 p.m. when we go live on our What's Up Wednesday. Just kind of go on current events and things that may be going. It may be game night. We have a plethora of different things that we like to present you guys on those Wednesdays. Also, you guys can find us, at 8:30 p.m. On Wednesdays. You guys can find our episodes or Counterpoise podcast episodes live on, presented on YouTube every Saturday around 1 p.m. You guys can be able to catch these episodes. Our social medias will definitely be posted here momentarily. Just want to thank you guys and my co-host. If you guys have anything that you want to add.
Sure. If you have a topic that you'd like to hear us talk about, or if you ever want to be on the show, please feel free to go ahead and reach out to us. You can hit us in our DMs or whatever. And we'd love to have you on here because we like to have company. We like to have good conversation and obviously spirited debate. But either way, we would love to have you and we would love to hear from you. So make sure you go ahead and hit us up. Let us know. And otherwise, like you said at the top of the show, please, with this YouTube YouTube video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Also, too, remember to tell a friend to tap in with us. We also post our videos, our What's Up Wednesdays on Instagram, so you can go ahead and follow those too. And for those of y'all who also want to find me on the Tagged app, it doesn't show up at the end, but I am also on the Tagged app. You can find me at SAMIAM. It's SAMM, and I got this little symbol in my name now, and YAM, YAMM. So you'll be able to see me. My face is still my face. It's always my picture. And make it easy. So y'all go ahead and make sure you tap in with this. Other than that, we are going to see y'all later on in the week. We cannot wait. I know Malik is going to be out of commission come Wednesday, so it's going to be me and E holding it down. So we will see
In the
y'all
background, I'm
later.
still doing my thing. I won't be here, but I'll be here.
We want y'all to have a great, productive, and amazing week. Have a great day. Make sure you take care of one another and just be safe out there.
All right, peace out, everybody.